This line here, there's only a y. It's y equals 4.1. There's only one variable. If there's only one variable, it's either horizontal or vertical. If it's y, it's going to be horizontal. Because, if you draw this here, here's our origin. Here's the y-axis. Here's 4.1, say, on the y-axis. Now this line is either horizontal or vertical. The most reasonable kind of line to draw here would be a horizontal line cutting through 4.1. So this is horizontal, and horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Another word problem here, and what's going on? We know that in 2013, 510,000 acres of farmland were devoted to growing nuts. But then in 2012, that number had gone up to 830,000. So what we want to do is find the average rate of change. Well, we know that the average rate of change, that's equal to the slope. And we have a formula for the slope. That is the second y minus the first y over the second x minus the first x. Now the y's, these are the outputs. The y's are the output, so this is the change in the output. The x's are the input, so this is the change in the input. So what's our outputs? Well, the outputs are the second components in the ordered pairs. Now there's two ordered pairs here. There's this one. Oh, let's not use that. There's this one. In 2003, we had 510,000 acres devoted to nuts, and in 2012, there was 830,000 acres devoted to growing nuts. So I have two ordered pairs, and as I look left to right, that's the first x I see, that's the first y I see, this is the second x I see, that's the second y I see. So let's plug these numbers in, substitute them into our formula. So the slope will be the average rate of change, which is the slope, is going to be the difference in the y's. So the second y, 830,000, minus first y, 510,000, over the second x, which is 2012, minus the first x, 2003. Now this gives us that the slope is, now on your calculator if you like, 830 minus 510 is 320,000, over, all right, difference here, 9. All right, now remember, keep the units here. This is what? This is acres of nuts, and this is years. That helps us make an interpretation at the end. So make a division here. I did that on my calculator, and I'm going to round off here. I got 35,055, bunch of fives. I'm going to round it off like this. All right, so there's the slope, but I'm going to write the slope as a fraction because the top number, remember, this is acres of nuts, and this is years. So what this says, on the average number, anywhere between 2003 and 2012, if you increase, pick a year, pick your year between 2003 and 2012. If you increase that year by 1, we're going to increase the number of acres devoted to nuts by 35,556. So I'll write an actual interpretation here. So right, I'm just going to say what they're asking me. It says find the average rate of change of the number of acres from 2003 to 2012. So I will say the average rate of change between 2003 and 2012 is about, and I'm going to say about because I rounded off a bit, is about 35,556 acres of nuts per year. Can you see the slope and the y-intercept in this equation? Well, the slope, remember, is always the multiplier of x. So there's the slope. Remember, the form is, here's the form, y equals mx plus b. So the slope is the multiplier of x. So for us, that's going to be 7/8. And that constant out there, right, that constant out here, this is, right, this one here, this is the y-intercept. Well, it's the coordinate, the y-coordinate. So actually, the y-intercept, remember, is a point, it's 0, and whatever that number is, negative 10. Right? So in this case, this line would cross down here at negative 10, and then if you went, okay, get another point. Bottom number is the horizontal change, top number is the vertical change. So if you went over 8, you'd have to go up 7 to get back on the line. Find the slope of this line. If it exists, well, there's only one variable, and it's x, so this line intercepts the x-axis at negative 6, and this is a vertical line, and vertical lines, the slope is undefined. And the slope and the y-intercept for this line, well, remember the form here. The form is usually written like this. Y equals mx plus b, but you could switch the order of those, so you could write it as y equals b plus mx, but the point is that multiplier of x, that's the slope, and for us, the multiplier is negative 8/9. So the slope is negative 8/9, and the y-intercept, all right, the y-intercept, that's the constant out here, or here, so the constant is, in our case, just 8, all right, so the y-intercept is 8, but it's an ordered pair, so the first component is 0, because we go out 0 on the x-axis and then up 8 on the y-axis. And the slope and y-intercept of this line, y equals negative 17. Only one variable, so it's either a horizontal or vertical line. This line crosses the y-axis at negative 17. All right, so the slope of a horizontal line is 0. And where's it across the y-axis? At what point? I always have to put the 0 in there. So 0, negative 17, because we want a point. The y-intercept is actually a point, not just a number.